Hey guys, Broker Brett here with Insurance Nerds Attachment Point News Roundtable. I got Spencer Witcher. Is it Witcher? I always feel like I want
Yeah,
to say Wicker, but it's Witcher. And
yeah,
he's been our contact over at SmartChoice, been super helpful, super patient as I was trying to figure out when I wanted to launch my agency. And thanks for getting me and Ed off the ground. How you doing, Spencer?
yeah. Good, good. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, and obviously, really excited to continue to work with you guys on the agency side.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. And I have a friend out in New Jersey, Anthony, that recommended us over to you guys, Lorenzo, and he's just had nothing but good things to say. And we're really pumped that we hopped in and just, tremendous resources. And, before we were talking, Spencer was saying he had a crazy day. I was like, with 7,000 agents in your network, how could you have a busy day? I mean, how could you have any problems
Yeah,
popping up? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, no, we appreciate Anthony and the referrals that are that's what we do. That's what we
Yeah.
strive for. In our neck of the woods is to whether it's a customer or a consumer.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm going to switch this over to gallery view. Um, but yeah, so for myself, I started working with Ed recently and I was super tech forward. I was interested in the insure tax and doing everything a little bit differently. Ed's managed traditional agencies before. Um, what's impressing you right now? Who do you think's doing it right? What kind of agents do you see sort of pulling away from the pack a little bit today?
I think really the agencies that we see, have been able to capture both the traditional brick and mortar
Mhm.
atmosphere with implementing the tools that technology has provided us. I don't really see agencies doing it wrong unless they're just not doing it at all.
Hmm.
But I think in the COVID era, especially now, I think the presence of being able to implement strategies on more of a technological side is very important, especially when, you're a very we'll call it old school salesman of, handshakes and high fives and, being sure you're talking to your customers all the time and, just finding new ways to continue to be present.
Hmm.
I think the ones that do it right take it beyond insurance, truthfully, and they're providing, you know, cooking tips and lessons and real life stuff that's going on, with the kids downstairs and
Yeah.
the online school. So really the agencies that we've seen, do a good job are the ones that kind of picked up the tools and said, okay, how do we get this going? Because regardless of how we come out, if you've been able to touch people in more ways than you were before, I think you've come out ahead, especially during what we've gone through.
That's the argument I would make, that you have the brick and mortar to kind of substantiate yourself, to show your real business, build credibility, and then you use the digital to extend reach. That's the argument I've been making.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think, obviously on the carrier side as well, I think that they, still kind of stood behind saying, hey, we do like, more traditional
Hmm.
agencies that, to have that kind of brick and mortar shop. But, I think it's kind of a hybrid model. You want to be there for in-person visits, but there's day and age where people are like, hey, I'm easier to, get 30 minutes on a phone call or hey, let me hop on Zoom. I'm sitting at the house anyway.
I have a friend, I won't say what company, but he worked for kind of a distribution group, and he's actually in, like, I want to say Sweden right now, because all of our schools got shut down and everything, and
Yeah.
his wife has family in Sweden. So he's been working, like, I don't know, what, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. or 4 p.m. to like midnight, and, he's running this thing remotely. Um,
Yeah, yeah, but that's a great mention, for a lot of people. I think we've realized that hey, there is an opportunity for people to have more of a remote role and still make that meaningful
mhm.
impact, and whether it's a company role or as a salesperson, it's a good thing to have.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about balance. I think, yeah, like you said, the digital and the in-person. I'm 35. I'm a little older than you. I kind of appreciated growing up where, like, I had phone numbers in my wallet, and then, like, yeah, I got my first cell phone at like 19. So I feel like I had a little bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. Um, So for agents too, like, I know I appreciate you being open to some of my startup buddies. It's pretty cool to see kind of the data-driven stuff coming up too, and how, like, the landscape's changing a little bit. And
Yeah.
I feel like the incumbents lately are kind of waking up. They're kind of realizing, they need their little sandboxes. Like, I think Farmers has a renters product that they're building on its own
Yeah.
platform, and there's a few
Yeah.
interesting things happening out there.
Yeah, and State Farm, they just recently had an acquisition of that non-standard firm down in Texas. So, you're right. If the the older giants, they're not
Mhm.
paying attention. I think that's how groups like us at Smart Choice, kind of get caught not looking. Is you do need to be able to consistently adapt, and when these companies come out, you want to hear about them
Mhm.
first.
Yep.
You don't want
Yeah.
to hear them by walking in and saying, "Hey, the guy down the road showed me this, 2 Tuesdays ago," and so, and it's great, and I think that insurance as a whole is a place where somebody never learns enough. If
Mhm.
somebody would like to find a different avenue or aspect of insurance, it's really out there,
Yep.
and so really thank you for that, for kind of helping us, get some of that kind of old school mentality shaken up a little bit and saying, hey, let's meet agents where maybe they lie, and instead of having that kind of traditional model, if you will.
But I think it's cool that Smart Choice has been open to, and you guys, you have so many agents, so many opportunities. I was actually just talking to a CPA right now that's helping us out, and we're trying to say, you know, high risk fire zones, flood, startups, maybe stuff around automotive we're focusing on, but we can help you out with anything. I was like, you hear a need, got a resource like you guys behind us, you can find a home for just about any risk. But
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, we really do try to have A to Z
Hmm.
portfolio of really everything that can happen. Just specifically for us out here in California, we face such a broad array of different risks.
Hmm.
LA County is so packed full of people. Just the sheer number of registered sport bikes in the county of Los
That's
Angeles.
funny.
It's things like that, and then just like you mentioned, the ability to be able to offer somebody that home that's up in that Lake Arrowhead or the
Hmm.
Mammoth, or, those great properties, that you just kind of leave out, and so that's what I enjoy. I love being able to help people, and really that's why I like my job.
Yeah, get them off that fair plan,
Yeah,
Get 'em-
well, and really good things from the California Fair Plan. I think they really took a lot of the things that agents and consumers were telling them and saying, hey, the TIV limit, was just leaving people so, exposed, and people from other states can kind of think, how are they getting to the TIV so
yeah.
quick? But the piece of property that the house is sitting on is worth that, its weight in gold, and so for them to make that ability, but for agents out there, there are all alternatives, to that California Fair Plan
Hmm.
product without having to go get a difference in conditions and try to, fit a puzzle together. There are carriers on the ENS side that are providing HO3 type formats, out there. And so I think that's one of the nice parts about us is that, hey, California, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. No, California keeps it interesting for sure. Although I've been thrown off lately with this whole COVID remote thing. I'd always argue that it was helpful being Orange County because you go to LA, San Diego, Riverside County, but I'm all screwed up now. I'm not sure going forward if I can make that same argument.
Yeah.
Um, No, it's interesting. So a smart choice. I think about guys like Ed and myself. No fees, just pay for EasyLink, hop in there, and make what you can of it. How big are some of the agencies too? I don't know if I've ever asked you.
I
What?
mean, we have massive agencies. We've
Yeah,
got agencies that, compete at the top level in their state for being some of the biggest, PNC providers
that's
in their
cool.
areas.
Yeah,
On the flip side of that coin, we meet the guys that, got their license and they're pumped up and they're
yeah.
riding high and they're like, listen, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I want to get there. And that's really why I like Smart Choices, because it's not a one size fits
Mm,
all program, much like the independent agency space. It's really the ability to tailor fit something, to an agency, and different agencies, they have different shelf space with Smart Choice. Sometimes agencies come to me and they want a singular product, and that's fine. That's a great
that's cool.
asset. We really appreciate those opportunities. And then there's other agents that come to us and say, hey, I need you to be my wheelhouse. I need you to
Hmm.
really be there for me. And that's what we like. We want to be there for the agents, because some agents come into it at that early stage, and market access is just a fraction of the battle. The education, that they're looking for, that the big, captive guys provide, is really the big portion of what we do, as well is being able to lift that agency up, as they go through the independent agency channel.
Yeah, totally. And I got to hop on more of those. I think I've caught like one or two trainings so far.
Yeah,
Um,
well, they're super
yeah.
informative, and we're pushing now to get more diverse training on different products, and bringing other parts of the industry in, from wholesalers and
Mhm.
brokers and insurtech startups, really to let the agencies know of the continuation of the growth in the industry, and saying, hey, however you want to run your operation, there's people out there that can assist you, without sacrificing your integrity that you built the organization on.
Totally. And that's another cool thing about the industry. You can kind of niche into whatever you want to a degree. I mean, you got to follow your personal
Absolutely.
network a little bit, but I mean, you name it, it's insured.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And if it's
Yeah.
not yet, I'm sure we can find some paper to fit it in on.
Yeah.
So, it's really the land of opportunity. It really is, you can get in where you fit in anywhere in insurance.
What are some weird things that may have came across your desk in like the past 6 months? Anything kind of out
Well,
of the norm?
Well, we've actually, recently we've been doing a lot of the cannabis business. So
Oh
we've had
yeah.
multi-state facilities. Those aren't really necessarily off the wall.
They
Had
have,
a few,
yeah.
had a few high-value homeowners in the Los Angeles County area have some exotic pets.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
it's just some odd stuff like that. Had a guy that's got a uh, probably one of the best collections of top baseball
Oh,
cards
wow.
I've seen, and so he was looking for his own product on that. But I mean, that's it. It just varies. I mean, there's transportation risk coming in
Mhm.
daily, and it's everything. It's everything from, hey, I got somebody, I've never done an SR22 before,
Okay.
to a new age alternative, therapy clinic for something we've never heard of.
Yeah.
Recently, we're trying to figure out the Denver market. They've decided to insure some psychedelic mushrooms, and so that's been
It gets a
our
little strange.
our recent battle of how to kind of manage that. But it's just kind of it's a learning experience. You never know what industry is going to pop up, and you're just kind of along for the ride. And as these things come up, it was kind of like my early days were when Uber first started, and we were all thinking, how in the world are we going to
Hmm.
insure this? How are we going to find carriers to take it? But fast forward, now no big deal. We can, any app-based system, we can find somebody to take that policy all day long.
That's cool. It's interesting. So I kind of want to backtrack to the cannabis comment and then go forward.
Okay.
I had one client as a cannabis client, and it's just funny how much it's just business insurance for the most part. We weren't on the grow side. It was a dispensary and a marketing company.
It is.
But what I like about insurance, I think people get scared about touching different verticals or different areas. It's just kind of widgets. Like this bucket's meant to cover this bucket's meant to cover this bucket's meant to cover this. And they just kind of put these puzzle pieces together to meet different needs. And you got to be really careful. You don't want to misrepresent or, miscategorize anything. But yeah, we have the widgets to insure just about anything,
Yeah,
like,
we do,
yeah.
but you allude to a very important thing, and making sure that you've got that education
Hmm.
when that customer does say, hey, why is my receipts based off the square footage of my building, and
Hmm.
not based off, gross receipts of the, for the premium, and things like that. And so, it's just it's a great way to kind of get in and get ahead of the pack too, when you've got good carriers. And, that's another thing about, being able to go to guys like CanGen and some of the other big guys out there, you get to go right to them.
Hmm.
There's not a big intermediary process. And I think you're right. Once the agent kind of touches a new area of insurance and they realize it's not, it doesn't have this big stigma to it. And when you get down to brass tacks, it's the same X's and O's for
Yep.
everything else. So, but there's a lot of very unique coverage in there. And it's a good opportunity for agents, if you're in a legal state, or whether you've got CBD or hemp,
Hmm.
you've got an industry that's shown that says, hey, coronavirus happens and you see everything else get hit, but, all of a sudden you start seeing these things pop up, you're like, wow, this industry's seeing growth where everything's down. So those are indicators we like to pass to agents and say, hey, here's something to keep in mind in case things get strapped in the, habitational market or whatever sector you're in.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Buggy be like, what's actually going through the pipes? Yeah, I love carriers. Carriers do their best, but they'll give you that 180-point hot sheet list. You're like, really? All 180 of those things should be winning?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, and
yeah,
that's a great point. I think everybody does well at making themselves look good, but I think somewhere in the middle, I think everybody's got their own thing that they kind of niche on,
Yeah.
and but that's the beauty of it. You
Get
find
rich
out.
in your niche. Yeah. Oh, totally. No, get rich in your niche. It's our agency, it's our what was I gonna ask? No, yeah, it's a cool space. I don't know. I've really enjoyed it. And so for somebody like myself who's out there just networking, trying to niche maybe into startups, personal lines, life insurance, but it's cool when I can bug you and then you send me to the right person to talk to. It makes you a little bit more emboldened as an insurance salesman when you have, GAs, wholesalers, points of contact that can help you round out your perspective.
Yeah, and I think that should be kind of the focus of any network that's out there, because I think everybody can agree that in the independent agency space, there's room for all of us.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, society has shown that you're never going to make everybody happy, and
Hmm.
I think that's why it's so important for networks like ourselves to be open and transparent about the ways that we operate, because it may not line up with somebody's niche, and so when agents are kind of out there, I think that, getting with some sort of network, whether it be through, your big eye or whatever the case
Hmm.
may be, there's people out there like myself that are willing to help. And really, that's why I do what I do, is because this is where the rubber meets the road. We're in between the carrier and the agents. And, when guys just like yourself, you come in and you say, hey, this is where I want to go. Can I get there? And, I get to actually solve an issue, a real life issue, and say, hey, here's a whole array of
Hmm.
product and carriers that you can get these products at, and here you are to go. But for anybody out there that's thinking, hey, I wonder if I can do this, the answer is absolutely, and
Hmm.
there's guys out there to help you get there.
Yeah, totally. I don't know. Even in my own county, I know three or four other younger agents. I don't really feel like we're competing with each other just because, I mean, maybe it's a problem plenty in Orange County, but
Yeah.
there's so much opportunity out there. And I always feel like it's us and it's kind of blue ocean. It's us really trying to service people well. I don't want to say avoiding going direct to consumer, but helping kind of coach people because they're going to pay the same for insurance, whether they work with an agent or not,
Yeah.
making sure they have good coverage in place. Um, but yeah, I feel like it's all of us just trying to like in our own little corners, but not competing. And then there's like the hubs, and the marshes and the aeons, and they're like in their own other ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think the fact of how many new agencies start up just go to show you that those big, top 100
Hmm.
P&C agencies that you see on the Insurance Journal and things like that, one slip up from one of those, underwriters, and that's in the lap of a very small agent that's
Yep.
running, gunning, and looking for it. And, that's why we make sure that we push to agencies that, you providing that industry good experience, making sure that the customer understands the coverages, and really making sure they understand,
Hmm.
what's the difference between a GL and a BOP, how much business personal property can I get on my HO3 form, making sure that your customer understands, the ins and outs of the coverage. Because I think a lot of people get so caught up with the price and they forget that they're this great individual
Yeah.
on the back end that offers all of these great things, and I think some people sell themselves short sometimes, and they're like, if it's not the right price, but that just kind of goes to show that, if somebody has the right attitude and the right mentality about it, it doesn't matter who else is around the corner, the
Oh
mom and
yeah.
pop is the one that they're always like, they've been there when I've needed them.
And I can attest to it's hard to move the paper. When somebody has a good agent, they're not that interested in getting into it. They don't really want to change. And that's cool. I hope
Yeah.
to be that guy, more often. Right now, I just run into him.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. You're right.
yeah. And, you want to sell good policies like hired and unowned auto, business personal property on premise, off premise, water backup, for a few.
Yeah.
Um, I can't name names, but there's a big global company that does some direct to consumer that my buddy works for, and they didn't have a cyber policy, and the losses are in the millions. And I'm
Ooh.
just like kicking myself. And I totally try to bug him. What's funny is like past couple of years, I was like, "Hey man, let me sell you some cyber. Hey man, let me." I know nothing else makes sense, but I can go in there. And so, I don't know. It was just interesting. And I do think the guys care. Don't get me wrong, at the big shops, they're making a lot of money. And I guarantee there's really entrenched good long term relationships.
Yeah.
But, like you said, when it's, dentist money, when it's keep the lights on at the house money, your
Yeah.
local agent really like is watching that bottom line and he really cares about everything that's going through his door.
Yeah, well, and
Yeah.
you open up Pandora's box of talking about, loss runs and profit sharing and things like that, that these very large organizations make a lot of money doing. There and those brokers, there is a relationship between both that carrier and the customer,
Mhm.
so it is, two-sided. So, kind of like the agent, the network. So like myself, we're kind of in between the two of those to make sure that everybody is doing the other side right,
Yep.
at the end of the day. But, you're right. There's some great individuals out there, but, at some point you scale something so large that you either don't have the manpower or the correct people in place to continue that kind of small town feel,
Yeah.
the smaller mom and pop, because we all feel very good when we have something like that, when you walk in and that somebody's just got that big grin and they're like, man, how are the kids? Is the wife doing well? I know your dad was sick, that it goes beyond a policy number. And that's the value that I love to see agents add, and getting out in their communities and doing all these really great things.
Yeah, and before this call, I was talking about how we just relaunched Newport Beach Insurance Center and went from like a kind of DBA extension myself to an LLC. And I just was pumped to have my personal CPA, have a buddy who's an attorney set us up, my original business banker. You have your team, you have your squad. And it's just nice to work with people you enjoy working with, that you trust.
Yeah, well, teamwork makes the dream work. So,
Exactly. Exactly.
it's very easy for guys like me and you to get pumped off other people that are pumped up.
Yeah.
It's just kind of it's a building and a building and a
Mhm.
building, and then it spills over and things like that. And but yeah, that's why it's so important, for agents to have somebody just to lean on and say, hey, where can I go? How can I do this? Because the independent agency space can feel very lonely, if for whatever rhyme or
Yeah,
reason,
true.
you don't know how to get to the information. You don't know where the information starts. I talk to guys all over the time. It's like, did anybody ever check on you?
Yeah.
Did anybody see how you were in these agencies, these cornerstone guys, 30, 50, 40, 50 years, you're like, no one ever has come in here and been like, hey, is there anything that I can do to make your life easier? And so that was kind of a big thing in the beginning for me to say, hey, you got to make sure that these guys that are just coming in too, they feel that love,
Yep.
and so that's what keeps us doing what we do, is seeing these guys succeed and turn these, ideas from an idea to an LLC,
Yeah,
kind of,
totally.
forward and things like that.
No, the progress, man. But yeah, thanks for being open from the beginning, and thanks for being open when I circled back a year and a half later. Said, hey, let's fire it up.
Oh yeah,
Appreciate
yeah.
it.
And that's what I love what I do. I don't think that, I've never been a like a cram down your
Yeah.
throats. And I very much like everybody to feel comfortable in entering into any, smart choice, anything, So that's what I tell agents is, hey, I as long as, the good Lord doesn't take me, I'm gonna be here tomorrow,
That's awesome.
And so and that's what I tell agents is saying, hey, there's so many different ways to do it. I don't burn bridges. I don't harbor grudges when an agency's like, hey, this just isn't for me.
Yeah.
Great. That actually makes me feel better on the back end and saying, hey, it just didn't work out. And in your case and in a lot of others, tides turn and things happen and
Hmm.
life comes up and all of a sudden, we're back talking again. And that's why it's just great to have good people in the insurance industry, because you just never know, what kind of comes back from, when you throw the rod in the water. And just from, that one conversation, you and I can both attest, we've had a lot of different conversations that
Yeah.
we probably didn't think we would have.
Well,
You know,
what's fun, is so you guys give us the collective buying power. You being a phone call away is like another person in the clubhouse with you, almost like a third party intermediary. You get to help us work well with your company. Um, it's cool, man. We're in it together, in it to win it.
No, absolutely. And that's a big thing about us is the way that, we're compensated at Smart Choices based off the success of the agencies that we have. We're not a, you're going to get paid no matter what your agency's right type of
Yeah.
organization, and so that's really why I think what separates Smart Choice from some of the others is that, if your agencies aren't making any money, you're not going to either, and so
Yeah.
beyond just the dollar, there should be a lot of caring and heart that goes into it. But, bottom line, if you're not getting out there and helping anybody, we're not going to help you back. It's, no money is going to go into your account, as a territory rep. And so, but you see it. There's guys like me all over the U.S. in smart choice positions that have the same hunger. They're saying, hey, guys and gals that are saying, I would love nothing more than to see you succeed, without you having to sacrifice a whole bunch of things to get there.
Yeah, I know my buddy Anthony Lorenzo is a fan of his guy out of New Jersey. I don't know his name. Who is it?
Richard Myers.
Richard Myers.
That's a great guy, and he's been
cool.
Smart Choice for a long, long time. But Richard's the same way. I mean, when Richard sells, he sells. It's an infectious thing. But Richard cares. At the end of the day, that his agents are doing well, and he wants to be a big voice for his agents in the field. And I think that's something that a lot of people like, is that my agents know that, hey, when we go to the carrier table and we talk, I'm batting for them, and
cool.
we're really getting to the table and things, because it's a fine balancing act, of trying to keep the carriers happy while also, showing the carrier and saying, hey, you didn't have to wait 4 or 5 years to give this guy a shot. He had all the opportunity in the world. It just may not have looked like it, but that's what I love, is helping the small guy get in and doing whatever they want.
Well, dude, thanks for opening the doors for us. Look forward to, keep working with you, keep growing, and we'll have to circle back with some more, war stories on a later episode.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
Programs or something.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Brett.
Yeah, absolutely. But, well, thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.